Hi, Glenn here, War for the West, back at you again. And we're here to talk about Mr. Sisson today, Mr. Harry Sisson. They're the darling of the Democrats for this for their Gen Z set, the social media set. And this guy is often talking like an authority. By the way, he's very bright for a young man, but he's not really deep on any of the issues. It's really funny to listen to him talk. But they love him because that's the way he is, and he sounds intelligent and thoughtful. So we're going to take apart the reasoning here, that the way it's explained, because I think it tells you a lot about the way the Democrats are thinking, and how we should think about dealing with them. Okay, let's go.
Good news about the 2024 presidential election, and there's not much. We're all very sad right now. We're all very disappointed. We're all very shocked. But there's one piece of good news that I can think about right now, and it's that the resistance continues. The resistance against Donald Trump and their awful Republican policy continues. The Republicans have this idea in their head right now that you, me, and everybody else are just going to lay down. We've given up.
Is that what you think's going on? No. Nobody's thinking you guys are going to lay down and give up. Harry, let me really slow this down for you and explain the world you live in and how it works and why you're able to be free and do the things you do, because you apparently don't know it. You don't know what the gifts of the Enlightenment are, right? Do you understand what the meaning of the Age of Reason is? That we engage the world with our rational faculties and a morality that we agree about, which, whether you know it or not, are basically Christian virtues. And we can reason our way to some objective truths that we can agree on. And by doing this reasoning, we can create knowledge and agreement and build a better world. Right? Your approach to this is that the conflict is endless and it can never be resolved. Do you understand that? You're just in an endless revolutionary war as a Marxist, and you don't understand it. That is innate Marxist social and political thinking, okay? But it gets a lot worse than that, Harry, because here's what we expected out of the Democrats and the left. And it's really not that hard to understand. See, we thought that you guys running around just constantly lying about the right, calling us fascists and Nazis. And by the way, punk, we are not fascists and Nazis. Were you to call me a fascist or a Nazi to my face, I would punch your fucking lights out, son. Do you understand that? You would never get away with speaking like that to me live. And nobody does. Nobody ever says anything like that to me, to my face. Because I live a very high integrity life in that regard. And eschew bigotry. And most conservatives and right-wingers do. So we are tired of being talked to like that. And it's wrong and it's a lie. We are not fascists. So here's what you did. You guys made up a bunch of lies about us, and inside your little bubble, you all pretended they were true hard enough to where you actually started thinking they were true, Harry. But in the rest of the world, see, the 20 or 30% hardcore Democrats and the few people that are able to influence, who are basically all Marxists now, whether you know it or not. You're socialists and Marxists, and those are two different things. You probably couldn't even distinguish between the two, Harry. That's what a naif you are. That's how naive you are and how little you know about this. But here's what we expected. See, we think there is this thing called reason, that we can find some truth and something to agree upon by engaging each other. And we hoped you would look around and see, wow, these are lies that we've been perpetuating because so many Americans who cannot possibly be fascist and racist agree. I'm seeing the positioning that's coming on the left now. It's so disgusting that, like, oh, it's all the uneducated people who voted for Trump. Dude, I have a top 1% IQ. In verbal and abstract reasoning, I'm top 0.3% of the human population. I can argue PhDs into the dirt and have done so many, many times without breaking a sweat, son. Elon Musk may be the smartest person on earth, and he backs this agenda. This idea that you guys possess superior beliefs and reasoning and understanding of the world is a belief that only you believe. It's not true. You've got plenty of dummies in your party. We got plenty of dummies in our party. Sure, average IQ might be a little higher. Average educational attainment might be a little higher. This is all meaningless lies that you're being filled with to perpetuate your hate and your superiority complex. And we were hoping is that losing this election so utterly, so badly, so completely would teach you something. But it didn't. We were hoping you folks would walk up and say, hey, you know what? Wow, why do we believe all this? Like, they're not like that. We thought that might happen. The other thing we thought might happen is you would look at the failure of your own movement and how it basically ran a campaign based on lies and generalities and wouldn't run on its own record and wouldn't be specific about the new things it want to do besides like some credits for starting a business or something, and like, you know, tips, not taxing tips like Trump. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, you're kidding me, right? There was no, and so we thought that maybe this loss would shake you guys up, and there would be some adults in the room. You're not one of them, by the way. You're an adult child, Harry. You don't know it. You haven't matured enough because you don't question yourself enough, Harry. See, the essence of being an adult is you get a certain amount of humility beaten into you by reality and the real world, and you find out all your brilliant ideas aren't actually brilliant, and you find out all the ways you think you're awesome aren't actually as true as you think. That hasn't happened to you yet, Harry. It's gonna. But we thought that might happen to people on the left because there are some adults in the Democrat Party, and none of you are adults. So that's what we thought. None of us thought you were going to lay down and give up. We thought you might try and re-engage reality, and that the loss would be a signal that you guys have lost track of reality. I guess that's not possible with folks like you. Let's carry on with the rest of your message.
We're not doing it anymore. Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. We're still here. We're still fighting. We mourn for a week. We get our thoughts together, we recalibrate, and we get back out there. Like, if Republicans think that women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ plus community are just going to sit down and let them do their thing, no. Sorry, not happening. And here's the thing. I know for a fact that if Donald Trump tries to hurt the American people, make our lives harder, we will give him hell. We will make his presidency impossible if he tries to pass policy and legislation that takes rights away from people. I know you want to be part of that. I want to be part of that. And we're going to do it together. So let's not lie down. Let's get back in the game. Man, I'm so hyped up and excited. Let's do this together, man. Here's the good.
I wonder if he realizes how anti-democratic what he just said is. This is another thing that's taken hold on the left that, again, is an unexamined belief by this man-child. And it's this, that politics and the way you do politics is endless protest and complaint and riot too is fine if you're on the left. And that what you're doing is when any policy moves against you, it's a violation of rights something so horrible that you should be out in the streets and you should be protesting and doing everything you can to stop it. No, Harry, that's how you act in a country governed by a dictator. You live in a self-governing nation where we can pick our leaders. We just showed you that if you get enough people to run who are aligned with you and campaign well, you can win and you can change policies in this country and get outcomes. That's how you do it, Harry. You guys keep thinking, oh, we'll go to the riot, we'll use all the media, we'll bash them, we'll call them fascists and racists. By the way, if anybody comes to take your rights away from you in this country, Harry, you have recourse to the courts. There's a justice system that will protect your rights. You speak as though we can just come along and take your rights. But, like, what rights do you think they're going to come along and take? Articulate one right you think Trump is going to come along and take. And let's close this out by talking about all the lies that are told about feminism and women and transgenderism that apparently we too many people on the right really haven't figured out how to speak clearly about. So being against killing babies has nothing to do with women's rights, period. Babies are not women's property. Babies are independent beings. We view them as attaining rights to life earlier than you do. That's it. No bashing women over here. This whole thing about IVF, never true. Trump supported it. Trump's not even trying to have a national movement on abortion, national legislation on abortion. By the way, we'd have to do a constitutional amendment. And here's the other thing. If the Democrats were serious about protecting abortion rights, they would have pressed for a constitutional amendment 30, 40 years ago. Instead, they relied on the courts for a very bad decision that was always going to be overturned eventually. So now we end up in a place where it's back in the states, which is a great thing because it lets the states decide and lets the people decide this because there is wide disagreement. See, this is where you make the mistake, Harry. And this is where if your thinking doesn't change, you're going to fail politically over and over again. We disagree on this. It's not a violation of your rights to say you can't have an abortion. This is a policy that half the country thinks about differently than the other half. When we have disagreements about things, we don't make law like that. That bans it. In fact, we have laws at the federal level, for example, that they can't I'll use federal money to pay for abortions because we have such disagreement in the country. And that's the problem with you, Harry. You don't understand. Like, your views on abortion are not majority. There's most women, 3/4 of women want significant limitations on abortions, Harry. Many people in the Republican Party, are in alignment with a 12 to 15-week limit, will accept that, will work with that. But, we can't get anywhere with you folks because you just call us monsters and we want to put, it's like use Handmaid's Tale, which are fantasy, by the way. I don't know if people know this. Handmaid's Tale is not like, any like reality that ever happened. But this is all the nonsense in you guys' heads about rights and suppression. And then the last thing I really want you to think about is this, Harry. You're saying that if we pass policies that you don't like, because we can't pass policies that harm people's rights because you can take us to court on that. So if you don't like our policies, you're going to stop Trump somehow. LGBTQ, black people, how are they going to do that? Riot is the only way that you can talk about, right? And then lawfare, suing people, lying, cheating, and stealing somehow, right? That's the only way we can get to the end that you want. You can't get there by actually being winning people over and winning elections. See, we're a self-governing nation, as I explained to you earlier. That means the way you get policy changes is by first lobbying and discussing this with your elected representatives. If they won't go your way, you find representatives to replace them, you campaign, get them elected, and then they represent you. That's how you change politics in our society. Not by endless protests, endless shrieking. Yeah? That's not how you get anywhere. Then you pass laws, et cetera, Harry. So, and here's the bad news for you, because it's not 2016, it's not 2020. The American people have had it, and we have a mandate now. The moment this gets out of hand, all those rioters will be in jail. The moment some mayor or some governor lets it run amok in a city, the National Guard and or the military will come in and clamp down on those riots and arrest everybody who's breaking the law. This is not going to be the way it was. You will not be able to create chaos in the streets of the United States and get and affect policy by that and intimidate people. None of that's going to work anymore. Also, you can't block us in the House and the Senate the way you used to be able to hold us up at ransom. You don't have that power anymore. I don't think you know it. We also have the majority of state houses aligned with us and the majority of governors in the country aligned with us, Harry. You lost power utterly. The thing to do now is to step back and say, where was I wrong? And by the way, this doesn't happen every election. This is a mega landslide. This is a paradigm shift election. And if you go talk to people who study political science, they will tell you that is absolutely true. This is historic what's happened here. And it requires you to sit back and think about, wow, what do we misunderstand about the American people? What do we misunderstand in our belief systems? And the fact that you can't quickly say, hey, maybe they're not all racist, fascists, and like Nazis, that doesn't occur to you is so crazy and insane. We can't take it anymore. You're walking to a very different reality, and you haven't gotten to it yet. Going back to resist will marginalize you. Get to the table, be reasonable, start to engage, and try to come up with solutions and compromise. That's the way this moves, Harry. And I feel bad for you because you've been misguided. You don't even understand how politics works in this country, and yet you're some avatar for a movement. It's really a grotesque way to like represent democratic politics, to have you be talking for them, and you don't even know it, Harry. So, good luck out there, son. You're going to need it. Glenn, with War for the West, out.